Okay, so right now, right, we are learning completing the square. So completing the square, I have a disclaimer to make. Some of your teachers might teach you guys in a different method from me, okay? But I'll just teach you guys this method because it's a very step-by-step way, meaning to say that you can use this for almost all question type, all right? But if let's say you're more comfortable with the style or the method that your teacher teach you guys, by all means, go ahead. All right. So completing the square is a little bit complicated, but once you understand this method, then it will be quite easy. So this is something that you need it for A math and E math. Now, how do you know that what to do for completing the square? Because completing the square, if you actually look at it carefully, is in a form of something square plus something. Now, why is completing the square so important? Okay, so when you go A math and E math, right, in future, you know, when I ask you to factorize in a certain way, you need to tell me, oh, is it by completing the square? So completing the square, the shortcut I use is called CTS. CTS. So next time I say, hey guys, factorize using completing the square. Completing the square, CTS means completing the square. That is what it stands for. And why completing a square is so important? Because guys, can you look at here? KC is an x term, constant, right? So we have an x term, and a constant. What completing the square do is that, this is a constant, it brings all the square term into the bracket. I repeat again, completing the square brings all the square term into the bracket, and all you left with outside is just a constant term. So the one in blue are all the unknowns, means the x terms. And the one in red is the non-x terms. So it brings all the x terms into one bracket. Okay, and this is called a non-x term, which is just basically called constant. All right, so I give you guys some time to copy before I move on. Now, what's the purpose of CTS? The purpose of CTS is, just now I already said, it is you put all the square term together. So one of the good purpose is actually when it comes to proving. Now, in set 3, okay, you guys will do a lot of proving. So whenever you do proving, it's good to factorize using completing the square way. Why proving is so important? Now, let's go to the square terms. Because square terms are very special. Square terms, right, are always greater or equal to 0. Now, always remember there are 3 kinds of numbers. What kind of numbers? There is a 0. There is over here, the left of 0, I call a negative number. And the right of 0, I call a positive number. Now, guys, can you give me an example of a negative number? Okay, example, like negative 1. So when I take negative 1 and I square it, what happens at the end of the day? It gives you a? Yes, it gives you a positive number. Right? So now, 0, let's say I have a 0 now. I take 0, this number, and I square it. What happens when I take a 0 and square? I get 0, right? Now, last one, can you give me some random positive number? 5. Okay, so you want 5. So 5, I square it. What do I get at the end of the day? A negative or positive number? Positive number also, right? So guys, what is the moral of this story? Is that no matter whether are you negative, 0, or positive, the outcome is always the same. Meaning to say that this is your outcome. Your outcome is always positive or 0. And how do we write positive or 0 in math? You need to understand this lingo. It means like that. Positive or 0 means greater or equal to 0. Clear so far? That is for any square term. And how do we write it? We write it as like that. Okay, see square term. This means, look here guys, very important. Any square term. So any square term will always be greater or equal to 0. Okay, give you guys some time to copy. Okay, so for the second purpose of completing the square is that it tells you turning point. Able to tell you the turning points immediately. Turning points can be maximum point, especially when it's an N-shaped graph, or minimum point, which is a U-shaped graph. Now, for this turning point, we'll learn more in-depth in E-math. Okay, in E-math, we'll learn more in-depth. For now, this is just a general idea for you all. Because today, our main purpose is completing the square. I just tell you what's the purpose, because this is the part that a lot of Set 4s always forget. Okay, so once you know this idea, you know the purpose, we're going to do the technical part on completing the square. So this is the higher level of algebra. All right, so right now the question is, this is your square term. How are we going to group all the square terms together? Always remember the first step is to isolate. So in pink, isolate the x terms. Okay, if you don't have pink pen, then you can borrow from your friend or can use another color. So isolate the x term using brackets. So this is what I did. Okay, see what I just did there? I isolate my x terms. Means I know that, hey, this is what I need to focus on. Actually, to make it easier for you guys, I'll put it in square bracket. So can you see right now? This is a square bracket and here's my -4. I just copy paste the -4 outside. So far, so good. So what is going to happen is that the change is going to happen inside here. The change is going to happen inside the orange one. So what is happening in the orange one? Can you see it's an x square term? So before I do that, the second step is always apply the fat square minus skinny square technique. So can you see what I just did there? Fat square minus skinny square. So actually, right, this is the reverse of algebraic identity. But I'll not go too much in depth in that. I'll let your school teacher explain to you guys. I'll just teach you how to solve it. So can you see fat square minus skinny square? I take the one in orange and I apply the fat square minus skinny square technique. Now, the next part, be very, very careful, yeah? Okay, now I don't want anybody to write anything, just listen. Now, can you see here is an x square? So what happened to this x square is that this x square will just become x. Ta-da, done. X square will just become x. Why? Do you remember the algebraic expansion? You square the x, that's why it's still x squared. Understand? Okay. Next, can you see this thingy here? The x term only. This is not an x square term. This is just an x term. So, can you see here is a plus? If here is a plus, means here also follow a plus. If it's a minus, then it follows and becomes a minus. Now, the last one is here. Can you see an x term here? This is an x term, right? The x term, this is a difficult part that a lot of students always forget. You must divide by 2. Okay? And we usually write it as a fraction. So we write as 5/2. And the last one is copy paste. So what is copy paste? Can you see here is 5/2? Copy paste 5 over 2. CP. Copy, paste. Now you all can write all this down. Yeah, forget to put a tick. Copy, paste, we're done. So I put a tick here. Ta-da! Done. Okay, so right now, the next part is we're going to finish this up. So how do we finish this up? Can you see the square term is there already? X plus 5 over 2 square, right? So I'll just write it nicer by removing the square bracket. Minus away 5 over 2 square minus 4. Now, everybody, I want you to take out your calculator right now. This thingy, put it in your calculator. And can someone tell me what's the answer once you put it in your calculator? Negative what? Fraction. Yes, correct. That's all. Ta-da! That's it. Because why? Can you see over here? They say that they want it in the form of this. Didn't I satisfy what they want? Have a something square term. Even though I say plus b, but the b can be negative one, right? Minus 10, 1/4. All right, so with that, we are done. Now I'm going to let you guys practice one of the question before I move on to type 2. Okay, have you all done copying? Who needs more time? Raise up your hand. All right, so guys, right now is try it. So I want you all to try. Okay? Now that bring it to me and let me mark. So I want you all to try this. Express x squared minus 8x minus 15 in the form x minus a squared plus b. So I'll give you all about like 5 minutes to try. Very slanted. Write properly. You draw a straight line. Why my straight line also quite slanted? Okay. Minus 8x in the form okay. 5 minutes max. Once you're done, you can bring it over and let me mark. Okay, so very good. Everybody got it right. So this one, the answer is bracket x minus 4 square minus 31, right? Did everybody get the same thing? So please take note, some of you guys made an error just now. You have an x term inside here, which is wrong. And also another error is that you guys didn't put the minus 4 square into the calculator. You'll put as 4 square. Okay, so be very careful on that. Okay, so right now I'm going to move on to type 2. Later y'all can copy. Now for type 2, right? What is it that is a little bit different from type 1? Negative at the where? What do you mean by the front? Anybody know? What is different from type 1? For type 2, what's so different about type 1? Yes. So type 1, we call it as basic. Meaning to say that type 1 is just a pure x squared term. Meaning to say that it is no negative and it's only a solid plus 1. Type 1 is a solid plus 1, right? So type 2, what is it different is that now your x squared term has a negative coefficient. here. Negative coefficient. Okay? So I give you guys some time to copy it, and then after that, we will start. Now, when it comes to negative coefficient, you need to be very careful because right now, our additional step is that our step 1 is no longer separating or isolating the x term. Our focus right now, right, is that you must make x squared term have a coefficient of positive 1. Super important. That is our purpose right now. And how to make it a positive 1 means I factorize out negative. You see that? I factorize out negative. So what am I left with in the bracket if I take out a negative? So the minus x squared will become positive x squared. The plus 8x becomes minus 8x. Very good. And the plus 15 will become minus 15. Kiddos. Now we'll continue doing what we have been doing. So remember just now, what was the next step? Do you all remember? Yeah, so we go back to isolate x terms. So how to isolate x terms? By using square bracket. Actually, guys, I won't do this one. I'll just put like that. I think like this will be easier for you because I don't want too much complex algebra. So can you put plus 15 here? Means I make it positive and isolate x terms at the same time. I think like that will be easier for you all. Okay? I repeat again. Just now I put the 15 in the bracket, but now I realize that it's actually easier if I do it this way. Means I isolate and make it positive 1. Then now I use my square bracket. The plus 15 still stays as plus 15. And then now I can, what is the second step? I did it in orange just now, right? Okay, what's the second step?
Apply the fat square minus skinny square.
Apply fat square minus skinny square. So I have a fat square minus skinny square. All right. All right. And then after that, step 3 is that the x squared term will become x. Okay, see the x squared term? Now it becomes just x. Then remember, if here's a minus, means here will also follow a minus. And then after that, we have a anything x term will always, what do? Divide by 2. And then will there be x anymore? No more. So it's just here, divide by 2. What am I left with? 4. So I put 4 inside. And then I will copy paste. Correct? Copy paste. Put 4 in. Then later you need to listen. Very important. A lot of students always make this mistake. Because I know that it's very messy, I will write it properly. Okay? I'll put it all in one color so you all can see it better. And I'll straight away do what is 4 squared? 16, Okay. Now, ready? This is a little bit different. Now, can you see that I can expand out the square bracket? Can you see a negative here? Negative will multiply to this whole term. This whole term is one term on its own. And negative multiply by this term, which is one term on its own. Okay, I give you guys some time to copy because it's too many colors, color coding already. And I forget to put this one is step 4, the one in red. Open up the square bracket. All right, so I hope that you have written the one in red, you highlight it, the negative, and draw the arrow in one term and one term. So how are we going to open it up? It will just be like this, negative x minus 4 square. Negative and negative gives me? Yes, so it's positive 16. And then after that, plus 15. Same thing, just now I use the brown highlighter. So you can just put the one, this whole thing. Can you see I even highlight the one in positive? Put it in a calculator, and what do you get? Put it in a calculator, and what do you get?
31.
Positive or negative? Plus 31. The end. And that's all for A. Now, once you're done, let me know by putting down your pen. Then I'll erase that and we'll do B. All right, so B, I want you all to listen very carefully because it's a hence question. Hence question means you need to use the one from part A. Meaning to say that right now they want minus x squared plus 8x plus 15 is equal to 0, right? So what did we just did in part A? Do you realize that I made this whole thing? It has a final answer of what? This thingy, right? Correct? So this thingy, I just literally copy, paste in yellow. Copy, paste. So it'll be minus x minus 4 squared plus 31 will give me equal to 0, right? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to bring this constant term over. So I have minus x minus 4 squared is equal to negative 31. Then can you see negative at both sides? You can eliminate it, right guys? Okay guys, listen first, later you all can copy. So negative, I can eliminate and eliminate. Means at the end of the day, I'll just get x minus 4 squared is equal to 31. So do you all remember this? We did something like that in set 2. What do you have to do going forward? You have to? No, not algebraic identity. What do you have to do? Yes, you have to get rid of the square by square root both sides. Square root both sides. But what do you need to be very careful when you put a square root, especially on the one on the right? You need to put a plus minus. So it means that at the end of the day, you just get x minus 4 is equal to plus minus square root 31. And what does that mean? That means that x is actually equal to plus minus square root 31 plus 4. So x is equal to, now put it in your calculator, square root 31 plus 4 gives me? Final answer always in 3SS, so it's 9.57. And we have an OR. Can you see an OR? Okay, guys, I don't have space to write on the right-hand side. Can you see this mess here? Okay, so please take note now, is to write on the right-hand side, okay? Not below. Write on the right-hand side. So x is equal to, oops. X is equal to, what's the other one? Negative square root 31 plus 4. Yes, and put it in a calculator. And what do you get? Negative what? Nope. Of course it's different. It's not minus that minus 4, you know. Of course it's different. Negative 1.57, yes. So at the end of the day, your answer, you have two answers. Your answer is x is equal to 9.57, or I'm going to space again on the right. It's actually written on the right-hand side. minus 1.57. The end.